Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our webinar series in our Global Goals Week series. We're just going to get started in a couple of minutes, but as you're coming in, if you can just pop into the chat where you're tuning in from, that would be fantastic. Just for your information, my name is Jay. I'm at Future Foundations, and I'm joined today by my colleague Holly, and we're both based in London. And today's topic is about the teacher's perspective and how to support a project team in social action. So we'll hear from a panel of students and their teacher shortly. But while we're just waiting, it'd be great if you could just pop in where you're tuning in from. Okay, so while we are having people come in, let's set the framework for what we're going to cover in this afternoon or evening or morning, wherever you're listening in from, the overview. So in a bit, we're going to play a short video, which is a collage of the impact made by some of our project teams in our last year, 2021 to 2022. And after we've shared that with you, we'll move on to the teacher and student panel to talk about the teacher perspective and how to support a team through a social action project. And towards the end, I'll talk a little bit more about how to get involved in GSL, or Global Social Leaders as we call it. So let's play the short video so you can get a little flavor of GSL.
I have become more of a person who's more confident in talking about the things that I want to see in my school, and my teachers now actually are willing to listen to other people's ideas because they did think that my sign language signs were quite good.
The youth needs to be heard because obviously we're the future generations and we're going to be living on this planet for most of the time. And not only that, we are going to be making decisions for ourselves in the future. So it is extremely important for policymakers, governments, and investors, business owners to all pay attention to all sorts of generations.
La Guajira is a natural paradise for all travelers. Its diverse culture and beautiful landmarks make this a magical place, and is certainly one of the most beautiful and distinct regions of Colombia. But this is not the reality. 61.8% of the population live in poverty. Only 18.2% of those who enroll graduate high school. And there is a 28.6% illiteracy rate. That's why the Enlighten Initiative is a project we built on the necessities we observed on a tourist trip to La Guajira.
This all started around last summer when a good friend of mine tried to commit suicide before my eyes. It was really hard for me to take and made me realize that society doesn't pay nearly enough attention to the mental health of teenagers as they should.
This is why I invited my fellow group members and decided to start Mental Health Notebook together with the aim of improving the mental health of teenagers.
In our team, we have Ruby, Marianne, Crystal, Luca Joe, Alyssa, and Isa.
Before we started our research, we reached out to the Penang Green Council to collect some statistics and data relevant to our Penang locals. We then split off to research how to recycle various categories of waste and recycling programs already existing locally. We did this by not only researching online, but also contacting different organizations and companies.
As of 2019, it was estimated that over 1.8 million citizens in India are homeless. The sheer scale of this problem unsettled me and led me to create Project Gharana, a solution that is affordable, sustainable, and homely, to bring relief to all those Indian citizens who have nowhere to live.
Hello, my name is Antonio Cambire and I'm the president of the Gsr Project CMAT. I participated in the Canada-USA Math Camp back in 2020. There, I attended wonderful mathematical lessons taught by incredible mentors. However, one thing stood out to me. While all the continents were heavily represented, I was one of the only African in the cohort and one of the few Black people. So I started wondering why the situation was how it is and talked extensively with some friends about the issue. Indeed, we noticed that mathematics was a subject frowned upon by students in my country, Burkina Faso, while also being one of the key elements of a quality STEM education and to building a strong scientific community that would help in developing the country.
Well, good afternoon, good evening to everybody that's joining us today. I hope you have been inspired by watching that video if you've been able to catch some of it, but don't worry if you haven't, because we will be able to share the link and you can watch it on our YouTube channel. So hello and a warm welcome from me. My name is Jay. I am from the Gsl team here in London, and today I'm joined by my colleague Holly. Do you want to say hello? And we will be monitoring the chat as well, so please feel free to put in some comments or questions and we'll see if we can get those answered. We're going to shortly move on to the student panel and also speak to one of our teachers who was involved in supporting a project team that reached the top 5 finalists last year in our Global Goals competition. That project team is Project Gharana. But before we move on to that, I just want to just share a bit of housekeeping. So we're going to record today's webinar and you'll be able to watch that later. But for the purposes of safeguarding, we ask that as we have young people here on the panel, please don't take any screenshots or photos. You will be able to access the recording later. And then towards the end of our time together this afternoon, I'll be sharing a little bit more about GSL and some opportunities. But before we get there, I'm now going to hand over to a wonderful teacher from Gsr Perival School who supported Project Gharana in last year's competition. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and invite Dr. Trivedi to come and share some insights on what it means to support a team like this with a social action project. Over to you, Dr. Trivedi.
Thank you, Jay, for such a good introduction. So before I start, I would like to mention that I cannot teach anybody anything. I can only make my students think. I can only trigger something in their mind. I can just create a passion within themselves. So when I moved on to Gsr Perival International School, I could see my director having a very hard passion about students should do more extracurriculars. They should be involved in more extracurricular activities and come up with new startups, some initiatives that benefits the society. And myself being a learner, I am learner, I'm an interdisciplinary learner. I like physics, I like design technology, I like n number of different fields. And here I take my first class and I meet Arogani. He wants to make a very small idea about Project Gharana. At that particular moment, Project Gharana did not even have a name. It's just one container. Rather than throwing this container, can we actually give some shape to this container? A small idea at that stage needed encouragement, motivation. And I was just a very small impact maker at that particular point. I triggered his thinking by saying, yes, definitely. Making a sustainable environment will definitely help us. Parents, teachers, community members, and his friends came as and when the project developed, and this project is now one of the greatest projects. The media around here in Rajasthan and India have been covering this project, and it's highly successful. And I'm proud to say that Arav Gandhi started from a very small dust-like project idea, and now it's a very massive project, and we are getting calls every day to take this project to another level. So sustainable development is needed to attain the highest potential of anything. It's key that ensures that the process of continuous development for future generation takes place, and availability of natural resources and energy for the future remains sustainable. The selfishness of thinking only about ourselves will lead to extreme crisis in near future. So we must consider our planet Earth, and we should always think about what beneficial we can do about future generation. So the major question for a high school student comes here is time management. How do we give so much time to project development? So my answer to this question would be, if I like the project, I will definitely give my extra time to this particular project. When Arav came up with this project, he needed only little extra time, because all his research skills, thinking skills came from the subjects which he was studying in the class. In physics, he used to talk about different types of materials, strength, tensile strength, how the temperature would affect the temperature inside this container. But when he came to design technology class, he was talking about what particular material selection I can talk about. So all these connections made him think about a better choice of products. And today you can see this container is actually livable, and it's one of the amazing housing containers you can see. So sustainable development for me, it's meeting the needs of present without compromising the ability of future generation, so that they can meet their own needs. So the major benefit that I could see my students developing from GSL is they are making students being more organized, they are making them being more productive. And I have seen universities also being appreciating such initiatives, because the skills which students develop while they are doing this such kind of initiatives is just commendable. I have seen Arav's transition from a guy who just comes to my class discussing small ideas, and now he is in front of press delivering his speech. It's highly appreciable. So I would like to introduce my team of Project Gharana, Arav Gandhi, Rohan Patel, and Arjit Singh.
Please go ahead and deliver your presentation,
Yeah.
project team.
Thank you for that introduction. So let us run you through the process of Project Gharana and how we brought it from a mere idea to where it is today. So I think the key that we identified was the problem, and the problem of homelessness is prevalent all over the world. And in India, the situation is more dire. We see it all around us. We see people living on the highways, on the sides of the street, in parks, and just lack adequate access to shelter. So you have some statistics on the slide that compelled us to try to find a solution for this problem that we'd seen all around us. And that basically got us thinking for how we could integrate sustainability. So like Lavsa said, without compromising the ability of future generations to use resources to combat a problem that we see all around us.
So here are some models that we actually took inspiration from while building our project. So the first one is in Los Angeles, USA. There are over 230 similar container homes that cost approximately $57 million. Further, in Meath Court in the United Kingdom, there were 60 households built from shipping containers in just under 24 weeks. And also in Vancouver, Canada, there were over 12 houses built for women who were domestic abuse survivors.
So basically taking inspiration from how shipping containers, which is an untapped resource, looking at how these have been successfully converted into homes for different uses, inspired us to take this idea forward and see how we could implement the concept of shipping containers to combat a problem that we saw all around us. So now what is Project Gharana? So taking inspiration from these models that we showed you, we developed Project Gharana, which is a solution that utilizes end-of-life shipping containers to develop affordable and sustainable homes for the unserved members of our community. So in front of you, this is the first prototype home that we built. It's fully furnished with a living area, a bedroom or slash sleeping area, a small kitchen and a bathroom, and it can comfortably house a family of 4. So the idea was to basically minimize our environmental impact in all aspects of the home, and we'll talk about that later in our presentation. But this is just basically the first home that we've built to basically see how we can execute this idea, how we can scale it, how we can truly implement it in our local community using the resources that we have in as much or by reducing the time that goes into it to build a quality product that can help service our community. So as you can see, this is the outside of the home on the left, the bigger photo. It's a 20-foot shipping container, which essentially creates a carpet area of 160 square feet. So while that may be quite small, we've managed to fit in provisions for a family of 4 to live their lives. There's also a rooftop space that expands the living area that allows them to have more space. And we've all obviously included sustainable aspects into this build that we'll get into later.
So you saw a final prototype over there, but it initially started off as an AutoCAD model, which we collaboratively designed to best utilize the space available to us, because there's only a limited amount of space in a shipping container, but we needed to make sure that all necessary living amenities were available to whoever lived in it. So we took an AutoCAD model and then we started building the actual container using an end-of-life shipping container. So our process began with the interior. We started by insulating and paneling the walls. Then we went to dividing the space available to us based on our floor plan and AutoCAD model. We then installed our kitchen, then the plumbing, then the furniture. And next we set up the solar panel and the water tank that you can see on the roof in the final prototype picture that Arif had presented. And finally, we ended with painting the exterior and planting plants to allow occupants to grow fruits and vegetables of their own.
So like Lafsad mentioned, one common problem associated with containers is its ability to quickly heat up or become cold based on the external temperatures. So to combat this and to ensure that the space inside is livable for the family, and to ensure that it doesn't get too cold or too hot in harsh climates, we insulated the walls, like Rohan said, with glass wool insulation, which is basically doing research. We found this material would be best to insulate the walls and regulate the internal temperatures. So obviously, while this does not act as a cooling agent, it helps to retain or regulate the internal temperature based on whatever it's set at. So that was one of the most important decisions we had to make from a design and execution standpoint to ensure that one of the most common problems associated with containers can be mitigated to ensure that the family can adequately live in this home. So as you can see on the right, the picture was one of us wearing a hazmat suit and gloves and cutting some of the glass wool material and then filling it in the ceilings and the walls and then adding the paneling. So to make sure that the home is truly can be inhabited by a family. So I think that was one of the most major concerns that we addressed that came with using an end-of-life shipping container. Other than that, like Rohan said, it was the normal processes that would be involved with creating any sort of home, be it the carpentry, the plumbing, the electric work, stuff like that. So over the span of around 3 months, we spent time, the 3 of us, a few other friends, some engineers, carpenters from school, etc., all worked on this home to bring it from what you see in front of you to the final product that we showed you.
So there are 4 major benefits that actually come from a container home such as this one. So the first one is we recycle shipping containers that have either been worn out or they're used as a shipping container is over. And whereas they would have otherwise ended up in landfills and other wasted areas, we now recycle them and use them to actually build the houses. Secondly, the furniture, the flooring, and the floorboards are actually made of composite boards that are made using recycled Tetra Paks and milk cartons. So there's another way we use recycling. Thirdly, we've integrated sustainable energy into the housing. So we have a 1.5 kilowatt solar panel, and this solar panel actually powers all the electrical appliances throughout the house.
So we have a fridge, we have 2 fans, and we have a series of lights that are all across the home, and all of these electric appliances run off of the 1.5 kilowatt solar setup that we've installed.
And the house also has a rainwater harvesting system, which collects rainwater that can later be used as for different uses. So together, the house it essentially reduces the carbon footprint that we have. And lastly, it costs less money, so it's rather cheap to build and finance. And while being cheap, it also helps us to create many different houses.
Yeah, and basically the affordable aspect of it comes into play when we look to expand the project, because it's easy to finance and scale the project to service more communities. Because obviously right now this is just a prototype, but looking at how we were able to minimize the costs to build this self-sufficient home almost shows us the potential for how we can continue the impact. And that brings us to our vision. Obviously right now we've only built 1 container home, but our plan is to build over 100 of these homes in a self-sufficient community, essentially creating a community where over 400 to 500 homeless people have a chance to be rehabilitated, have a chance at a better livelihood, at basically a better opportunity at life. And we plan to build this community in 100 days through, and the project cost involved is around 500 lakh INR, stated a little weirdly because we want to replicate the 100 and 500 number. That'd be around, so basically that's the project cost. Looking at this, we want to create this community to ensure that people in our community who live below the poverty line have access to better livelihood. And the community we plan to build is going to integrate a park, integrate clinics, integrate a small school, basically creating a self-sufficient community for these 500 people at a project cost of, in USD, around $630,000 US. So that's all we have to share with all of you now. Obviously, we'd be open to questions.
So to add to this, I would just take 1 more minute to add. So after the GSL, we knew that we are selected and we are one of the finalists in GSL. Arav did not stop here. Since it's more about teachers' perspective, I would like to tell you all that he took 1 step ahead. Every time he achieved something, he tried to go ahead. He and his team members always thought, oh, we can take it 1 step ahead. In spite of getting in news and everywhere, he got sponsorship to replicate these containers. I'll ask Arav to mention about that as well. And secondly, he was also being invited by the central government of India to discuss and give insights on his project. We are getting multiple emails to how we can collaborate with different business authorities to take this project ahead. One more piece of advice which I would give all the students present in the house is time management skills. Take a pen and a piece of a paper and list down all the things that you want to do in a day. Arav never thought that he is going to make such a big progress. He always took 1 step at a time, and utilize this list for your day so that you complete that task. Then go back before sleeping and try to understand and reflect on whatever you have achieved and what not. Try to reflect. Reflection is a very important skill, and try 1 step at a time. When you are implementing a project, do not try to multitask, but focus on one thing at one time. Try to cover one assignment. While he was working on temperature management, he was working totally on temperature management. And that took this project to another level. Focus on a single task and then proceed one after another. Try to take breaks in between, because you will reach a stage where you are stagnant and you think you can't proceed further. Enjoy your music, do some stretches, have some conversation, and it works out pretty well. So that's it from my side.
Wow, that is amazing from all of you. Arav, Ardit, Rohan, what an amazing project and fantastic presentation. I hope you can see in the chat some of the lovely comments that you've been getting and know that you are inspiring other like-minded young people in whatever social action they're taking or will be taking in the future. So again, congratulations for being a finalist last year, but also the work that you're undertaking. And Dr. Trivedi, from your perspective, thank you so much for sharing your tips for the young people on this webinar. You know, hopefully they will take this away and be able to incorporate it in their own projects, or just generally in terms of leadership development. So that's totally valuable. But I'd like to just ask you a few more questions, perhaps from the other side of the fence in terms of teacher perspective, because I'm sure that there are teachers on this webinar as well who'd like to, you know what it would be like to be in your shoes as to how you encourage project teams and, how you manage your own time. So I have a couple of questions, if that's okay, to ask you. But while I am doing that, if anybody does have questions, pop them in the chat, and I will try and incorporate that either for Dr. Trivedi or the team. So my first question to you is coming back to what you said earlier about how you get engaged with teams that really have something that they're passionate about. But what happens where there's a project team that isn't as enthusiastic but really struggles? As a teacher, how do you encourage them? Because they will need a different level of support. And I know that you have been supporting teams over many years from your school as part of the GSL competition. So you will have had experience with a variety of teams.
Exactly. So the basic thing is listen to students, what they want. I always believe in listen, let students speak and try to understand what they are feeling, how connected they are to the project. We just throw a few questions at them and they come up with wonders. When they come up with a presentation, when they come up with an idea, I tell them, why don't you put your piece of idea on a piece of paper? So a single line of idea converts into 5-6 lines of documentations and sentences which are broader. Then I would tell them, why don't you research on the first part of this particular thing? Oh, you are talking about containers. Where are you going to get these containers from? How much is it going to cost? So students learn critical analysis. They start learning how to research, how to value sources. Sometimes students come to me and say, oh sir, I found this particular paper, this website looks cool. Then I go back and I tell them, did you check the viability of this particular website? Is it authentic? So you need to go back and check your sources as well. Why don't you talk to your parents? Why don't you talk to your friends' parents? So when this idea was introduced, and my experience, all my students so far, I have been associated with GSL for more than 4 years, and it has been working pretty well for me. All students started communicating with their parents, with their peers, and with the community, and they came up with wonderful idea, and it just began. So I was merely a person who was just supporting them. And when you inspire them, when you motivate them, and when they start liking this, it becomes a cakewalk for them.
That is really inspirational. Let's turn it over though, in terms of project managing and time management for you. As a teacher, you've obviously got a lot to deal with. How do you find time to support these teams? And in the past, it's not just one team that you're supporting, you have many teams that you've supported. So how do you do that and still manage to get everything else done?
So the first primary thing is I love being associated with SDGs. Sustainable Development Goals is very close to me. Even in my classrooms, you can ask my students. I try to bring in examples rather than just throwing a theory in the classroom environment. When students learn the application of the theory, and now global goals and GSL are the platforms which are allowing us to reward as well. If you're doing a good work, they reward, they give us feedback. So it's GSL has been a very good movement in this particular place. So my school, when I present an idea to them, they liked the entire idea and they said, why not? We can give extra time to the students. Students can definitely work. There is a purpose associated with this particular project. So when you can explain this particular purpose, teachers as well as students get time to work on this particular projects. So first thing is you should believe in what you are doing and you should love it. You should not just do it just because somebody has asked you to do it. If you like to do it, you time just comes in. You won't have to find time. It's just comes in within discussions. We are walking over the corridors and we are discussing ideas. I don't remember we ever had a meeting in a room where we were sitting and brainstorming for hours and hours. It's just walking on the corridors, sometimes just going while we are going on an outing. We also went on a scuba diving trip and we were having conversation about Gharana project. So if teacher is compassionate and teacher actually likes to implement ideas, any subject, I'm not just talking about physics, any subject can pop in into global goals. So it definitely connects. So time management can be done consistently.
We have people tuning in from all over the world, from Spain, Milan, from India, from Burkina Faso, and they will all have a different way of interacting with their school and their teachers and vice versa. And for some schools, they have a lot more resources than others. I wonder if you can share some insights in terms of, can you think of some lessons learned? And if you had 3 top tips that you could share with your fellow teacher colleagues, what would those be?
First thing is, I'm working in an environment which is quite flexible. Flexible as in my director, Mr. Ayush Periwal from GPIS, is very flexible. He says, we should encourage students doing projects because when they do projects, they learn a lot. And when they learn, they put theory into practice. And when they put theory into practice, this triggers their thinking level. So it's like planting a seed and turning it into a tree. We plant a seed, we plant an idea into kids' mind, and now when we look at their common app essays or their extended essays or lot of written work, it's just crazy. So to my other teachers, always present your ideas in front of senior leadership team. They'll always take it in a healthy way if you are able to present it well. And GSL, I would simply say go to GSL website and take the resources from there to explain to your school community. It's good for the school also and for the student community also, because a very good collaboration comes into picture. I got an opportunity to become Global Goals Hero while I was associated with GSL. And while reading and providing feedback to the students, it was time consuming, but I liked devoting that time because what an exceptional ideas, what kind of projects students were getting on board were simply exceptional. So I would simply say collaboration and communication is a key in making such projects work. So if you can communicate well, if you can say that the purpose behind this project is very big, if you can explain that to any community members, any senior leadership team, nobody would deny it.
That's absolutely awesome. I've just been watching to see if any questions have come through, but I think most of the questions have been for the project team. So I'd just like to bring in the team at this point and just invite you to, if you would like to add anything to what's already been asked in the Q&A that you've been typing answers to, and any thoughts from your perspective in terms of maybe the teacher support or something that you'd like to share about the project. I mean, I've got a question, but I'm going to wait to ask that until the end. So over to you, Arif, Ajit and Rohan.
Thank you. So I think first we can start by answering some of the questions in the chat. So the first one I see is, how did you manage to get sponsored? So I think the most important thing that we did was build our first home by crowdfunding. So we raised over 6,500 USD through a crowdfunder that we circulated amongst our friends, our family, and raised money for the first home. And after we showed the success of this first home, we were able to reach out to banks, to other corporates, to the government, to other builders, real estate developers, stuff like that, to basically pitch our idea to them and see how we could take it forward. And through those avenues, we were able to collect so far almost 200,000 USD to expand our project. So the next one was, what were the biggest challenges you faced? I've answered that in chat, but Rohan can talk a bit more about that to the entire panel.
Yeah, some of the biggest challenges we faced were delays with shipment of materials and vendors not taking us seriously because we're students. Being so young, us communicating with people in real professional fields, they often thought we were kidding or we were playing a prank, but in reality, we really wanted to do this project. And I think the way we encounter these challenges was we changed our strategy. So for example, if there were harsh weather conditions while building a container, if materials weren't coming on time, then we'd change our process a little bit, maybe focus on something else while we were waiting. And I think through that, we were able to dodge and weave our challenges and come up with the final container.
And one more important thing is that parents also play a very vital role when students are coming up with such ideas. When I spoke to Arav's father, I was just mesmerized. I said the way Arav, Arjit, and Rohan received support from their parents in this project was exceptional. I wanted Arav to just go to Arjit's mom and Rohan to just speak to Arav's dad and just gather ideas, get different perspectives. The ideas they came up with, the compassion, the empathy, it was just exceptional. So one of the that sustainability always requires students questioning about future, like they should be future oriented. All kids are going to go and work in university, do some kind of research. They're going to produce lots of literature work. But sustainability is a very important element which everyone is trying to work on. So working from high school level will definitely take students to next level. One of the projects which I worked last time was creating electricity or generating electricity from walking. So we use simple piezo sensors to generate electricity, and we implemented this minor project in our school itself, and we could actually generate one lamp using that electricity. So it's like making a difference in climate change. Resources for teaching educational sustainability are available everywhere online today. We just go to Global Goals website or GSL website or United Nations website. We get all the resources that we can use in our daily teaching classrooms. Eco Watch is something which we can look into. If I'm new to sustainability, how to teach sustainability to the kids, Eco Watch is good to start with. It tells you how to teach kids about sustainability, and it has resources from all the age groups. So that's one thing that I thought it would be great to share.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. And also thank you for mentioning the GSR website, because there are indeed a lot of, over the last almost decade, there are a lot of examples of projects like yours, and they're over a range, ranging from small projects, but every project makes an impact, to the bigger ones like this one here. And if you're looking for inspiration, the Gsr Project Library is a really good place to have a look, whether you're a young person, student, or a teacher, because it's not just inspiration, but it's also it's quite motivating, but also talks about, some of the videos talk about how teams have overcome challenges, or the ways in which they've approached social action, and how they've come up with projects, and what the needs analysis is. So definitely go and have a look at the project library on the GSR website. But
And
my question, yes.
One of the great things I just remembered, when Rohan, Arav, and Arjit were working on their container, it was almost ready, and they had to color paint their container. I could see all the students from boarding house helping Arav, and all their friends enjoying, having a great time. Whenever anyone new comes to our school, they want to see the container. Today, especially, that I got a call from a person, and he wanted to talk to Arav, and he called me 15 times, and I couldn't connect Arav to that guy because Arav had an exam today. All students have exams today, and everyone is coming with business opportunities. So I'm just saying, never discourage any ideas. Keep encouraging kids. You never know what wonders they can bring on table.
Yeah, that's such a lovely thought. Thank you for sharing that. You've almost become their manager. My question to the three of you, in terms of, you've talked about challenges, but what I'd like to know is how you feel you've developed in terms of leadership skills through this experience.
So one way I guess we've developed in terms of leadership skills is obviously, since it's just the three of us working on this project together, we actually had to do a lot of the coordination with the vendors, the carpenters, the electricians, with whoever was involved in building the house. So therefore, our communication skills have really been thoroughly developed throughout this journey. So that's one way I'd say we've developed our leadership skills.
Another Another would be, I think, our resourcefulness, because we obviously had a tight budget that we were working with because we crowdfunded a certain amount, and we wanted to ensure that our project costs stayed within what we raised. So it took a lot to, make sure we're getting the best deal for every material that we're sourcing, for every contractor or every worker who we're working with. So basically stretching our rupee as far as we could take it was another big learning that we were able to pick up during the process.
I think lastly, a quality of a leader is to be responsible with whatever they do. And as Arjit said, since it was essentially only the three of us on this project, we had to undertake a lot more responsibility than we usually would in something like this. So I think that helped us understand what it takes to be successful, to build a successful home, and that developed our skills as leaders.
Yes, and I'm just looking in the chat. You probably already answered it, but in case you have any other thoughts, the question is, what new skills have you learned through this process?
So I think that's a little similar to what we already spoke about,
Yeah.
but I think additionally, it's how to, face challenges that we see in the real world, because obviously when we're in school, the challenges we see aren't, comparable to the magnitude of the challenges that we'd see while executing a project that, had us get involved with a lot of professionals in the real world. So it was about how we presented ourselves to, make ourselves seem approachable, and also get the vendors and the people who we spoke to, make them take us seriously so that we can achieve our goal.
Also, I think maybe more than new skills, it was taking the skills that we built upon our entire lives in the classroom to the real world. So that transition was especially interesting and good for us, because now we know how to deal with things in a real life context rather than only in our classrooms.
Yeah, that's a really good final answer to end on. I want to thank all of you, Arav, Arjit, Rohan, and Dr. Trivedi, for sharing your time with us this afternoon, sharing your insights. It's been incredibly inspirational, and we've learned a lot. So thank you once again. Any final comments before I start talking about some GSL opportunities before we close today?
Thank you so much for having us, and I'll make sure that we keep delivering more projects to GSL. It's a good platform to start brainstorming, so I'm very happy. And as I said, our journey doesn't stop here, and we just start with GSL and we try to reach to next level. So that's a great inspiration for us as well.
Thank you.
But hats off to team GSL as well.
Well, I mean, we absolutely love working with young people, and so yeah, let me just share a little bit about what the Gsl offering is all about. So I'm going to now share a few slides. If I can ask everybody else to go on to mute for a bit, that would be great. Okay, so it's been a very inspirational afternoon or evening. You've heard from an amazing team and a teacher supporting, and that's just one of the aspects of GSL. So if you would like to know more, I'm going to just talk a little bit about the GSL offering. So our vision, GSL stands for Global Social Leaders, and our vision is a community of schools and partners committed to building a global movement of socially conscious young people who are equipped to be leaders in their lives and society. And at the heart are young people, but schools, parents and teachers, as Dr. Trivedi has been sharing, and partners in the community are all important, and we engage with all of these stakeholders to help the development of young people and in their social action projects as well. So here's what we do. GSL has been in existence for almost 10 years. When we started in 2013, and during that period, we've equipped over 10,000 young people to deliver 3,500, and it's growing every day, social action projects in over 100 countries. So the movement is growing, and we would love you to continue to be a part of that. The ways in which we engage with young people in enabling this are, we've just launched a new membership organization for schools. So this is something that is very much a new thing, and it includes the Global Goals competition. So you've heard from one of the project teams, a finalist from last year. That competition now sits within the GSL membership. The membership is much more than just the competition, and I'll talk about that in more detail in a little bit. But being part of a membership, we do ask for a contribution just to sustain the GSL movement, and we keep that as low as possible. The other ways in which we deliver our programs are the courses. So we have a number of leadership courses for young people, all based around social action, and those courses are available to everybody. So you do not need to be a member school to take part in these courses. You can book onto the courses as an individual, or schools can make block bookings. We also work with partners to widen access opportunities for young people in schools. So we want to make these programs as accessible to young people as much as possible. And we know that not everybody can afford to attend a course. And so when we work with partners through sponsorship and funding, we're able to widen the access to some of the GSL opportunities. And then another aspect that Dr. Trivedi mentioned, having been involved with GSL in this way, is we work with incredible volunteers, like many of you on this call. Our volunteers engage and inspire young people to take social action, and we call those our global goals heroes. So here's a little bit more about our membership, and there are 5 key elements. So just starting at the top with the head teacher. It's the head teacher that signed the school up to the GSL membership, and as part of the membership, we offer networking opportunities with other head teachers. The head teacher signing up the school to the membership then enables lead teachers to support project teams in the way that you've been hearing about today. And there are CPD opportunities for 2 lead teachers from each member school in terms of training around coaching skills. There are opportunities for teachers to collaborate and connect with each other from schools all across the world. And there are also certificates for teachers to acknowledge their contribution. Moving on to the third element, the Global Goals competition. Every member school can enter up to 10 project teams as part of the competition. And what we have realized through feedback and through running some of these courses over many years is that young people cannot do this alone. They cannot get involved with social action without the necessary support. So we've introduced a lot of teacher support this time around as part of the membership, but we've also introduced team leader training. So we have incorporated dedicated training sessions for each team leader of a project team. There will be opportunities to check in with live interaction, as well as ask the expert sessions. The fourth aspect is there are additional opportunities. So as a member school, there are discounts available for attending some of the courses. And finally, partnership. We look at partnership in 2 ways. We engage with partners so that we can extend opportunities to member schools through funding places or sponsorship, but we also encourage partnership and collaboration for our young people in the schools within their communities. So here are the courses that GSL offer. This is outside of the membership, and these are open to all young people from the age of 11 to 17. So if you are interested in taking part in a course, you can book on it individually, or a school can make a block booking. The Gsl Catalyst is something that we started as a result of lockdown to be able to offer something in a digital environment. And it's a leadership transformational program for young people. And we run it many times throughout the year, and the next one will be in October. The new courses are the Gsl Accelerator, and this is for anybody that has already been on a Catalyst and would like to deepen their leadership skills and develop their project management skills further. And the other new course that we're introducing this year is based around 3 themes: climate action, quality education, and good health and well-being. I can see that there are some questions coming in the chat, so I will have a look at those in a moment. So hold on to that, and hopefully we can get your questions answered. So the Activate course, the first one is based around climate action, and it's being run alongside COP27, which is happening in November. And the really unique thing about this particular course is that, again, we've taken feedback, and one of the things that we consistently hear is that young people, whilst they get a lot out of the courses, they really value the opportunity to collaborate with each other. So on the Activate workshop, young people will be able to work on a project with students from across the globe to develop a digital action project. So that's the first one of that is happening in November. So we work with partners to help widen access to our competition, to our courses, and various other GSL opportunities. And over the years, partners like the Wellington Leadership Institute, RISE, and Innovate UK have been able to provide us with funding to enable students who wouldn't ordinarily be able to access these courses to take part. And so if you are listening to this webinar and you're interested in collaborating or getting involved, please do get in touch, whether you are interested in funding places or sponsoring in different ways. And then the Global Goals Heroes. So another way in which partners can get involved as an employer is to provide the opportunity for employees to volunteer. And our Global Goals Heroes help us out in lots of different ways in supporting young people through providing project feedback as part of the Global Goals competition, judging the competition projects, speaking at some of our courses or Connect events, contributing to our masterclasses, which is something that is part of the competition and supporting the team and team leader training, and attending our Ask the Expert events to provide specialist expertise. So our volunteer opportunities are designed to work for busy professionals to leverage their time and enable them to engage and inspire young people. And we also provide training and support if you would like to become a Global Goals hero. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, today's webinar is part of a series of webinars this week. And here are the ones that are coming up. So tomorrow, we've got a webinar based around SDG 5, which is all about partnerships. And we have another project team who are going to come along and talk about their experience from last year's competition. On Thursday, the theme is climate action. Again, a project team to talk about that. And then on Friday, partnerships for goals. So the final one is on Monday, based around good health and well-being. There are a lot of upcoming webinars, so if you haven't already registered, please go ahead and have a look at our website and get registered. So just before we close today, we've got some time to have a look at some questions that are popping in through the chat. I'm going to take them in reverse order. So one of the questions that has come up is, are there any courses for teachers? Yes. If your school is part of the GSL membership, then there are CPD training courses for teachers. And there's more information about all the things that I've been talking about, including the membership aspects on our website. And Holly, if I could ask you to just pop some of those links in the chat, that would be great. Yeah, another question about GSL membership. Yep, we've already got the link in there in the chat, but if we can pop that in again. And there's a question about fees for membership. So if you have a look at our website, the fees are already on there, but we also have opportunities for support in terms of schools that are not able to take part in that way. So if you contact us, we can explore that further with you. And Holly, are there any other questions that I might have missed off? You can see those.
There is one about the availability of the workshops and sessions that we run in French and obviously in different languages, which is a really good question. I'll hand that back over to you.
It is, yes, thank you. I've just spotted that. So all of our courses are delivered in English. We don't offer them in other languages at the moment. And I think that's it in terms of questions. So if there aren't any more questions in the chat, I'd just like to reiterate our thanks from our GSL team to Project Guarana, to Dr. Trivedi, and we hope that you will join us for the rest of the week with the upcoming webinars. Have a great afternoon, evening from wherever you are tuning in from. And we will be providing a recording in the follow-up email later on this week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.